Hi everyone, this is Richard. In this video, we're going to go over Juggler and Tween. So these classes are what we use to actually make our objects move around, okay? So we went over the sprite last time, and we added this logo, the sprite object, onto the stage. And so right here, we're going to start right here. So what is Tween? Well, Tween stands for in-betweening. So what it does is it helps animate things. So in other words, it helps things go from one space to the next. So it's in-betweening is I have an object here and I want to move it over here. How do I get this to go over here? Well, what I have to do is I have to delete it and redraw it, delete it, redraw it, and keep going from there, right? But how do I get it over there is the transition, right, from here to here, and that's what in-betweening or tween is all about. So you might think, well, that's kind of silly. You go from here to here. What else do you do? Well, you can go up through here to here, down through here to here. You can go up and down through here. You can go straight evenly, or you can start accelerating really quickly. So you can do all of these types of things with tween, where we are able to control the movement from one position to the next. Okay, that's number one. Here, we're going to instantiate the variable tween, and we're going to say stage.juggler. So what juggler is it controls the passage of time. Okay, so when you move an object from here to here, there's the space, the transition, the behavior your object is going to have in between, and then there's the passage of time. So what does that actually mean? Well, if you're going to control the time, for example, we made an example in the past, you have a video game, and something's moving and you want to hit a pause button, right? If it's controlling the time, and the time is controlled first, and then it controls the behavior afterwards, you can hit a pause button, which is where it stops, and then you can hit the resume button and it keeps going on. I mentioned before we talked about the render loop, and we can stop that, and that can be a way to pause a game. At the same time, I also said that's not the way to do it, but that's just an example of what you can do. So here, I'm just going to say that something like a juggler, the juggler method here, we can actually use that to do like a pause. I'm not going to go over juggler too much. It is kind of advanced. I think I'm just going to introduce it right now, and then we'll talk more about it in future videos when we start doing more stuff with it, okay? So here we're going to instantiate stage.juggler.add tween. There's several ways of doing it, and let's go over that in just a second. When you do add the tween, you have to add the object right here, and this object, of course, is going to be the sprite. So you add the sprite onto the tween, and then you tell it what to actually do. So I have the object, and now what am I going to do with it itself? And here I'm going to say 3. 3 is the speed at which something happens. I don't exactly remember what the 1 to 100 or something like that. I don't exactly remember what that is, but that's the speed at which it is. The lower the number, the slower it is. The higher the number, the faster it is. So if we change this to 1, for example, actually just the opposite. It's the lower the number, the faster it actually is. So if I put 10, it'll be slower. Sorry about that. There we go. So it's going to be much slower when it does hit down in its entire behavior. Then we're going to say transition. So like we talked about before, so are we going to have it move up and squiggly path and stuff like that? We're going to have the transition, ease, out, bounce, and that's just one of them. And we'll go over that I think in the future video in terms of the types of transitions. Then what we do is the tween.animate. So that's just the method here. Animate, get it to move around on the y-axis, so up and down. If it was the x-axis, what would it do? It would fall to the side, right? It would fall to the side to that point right there. Because it would go over 800 divided by 2, so that'd be 400. That would be the 400th pixel right around here. And that's what we can do. So animate x. We'll go over this a little bit more in the future. Here, this is another way of actually doing it. We could just say this variable tween first it's a new tween, so we'll instantiate this tween. And again, we'll say L. Oh, should be like logo. Speed 9, transition, same thing, okay? And then we'll say stage.juggler.add tween first, rather than add tween right there, okay? So juggler.add instead of juggler.add tween, okay? And then, depends on how you want to do it. It could be either one. Tween first, just like this, .animate Y right here, okay? What I did right here is I wanted to show you how you could add two different sprites on the same exact stage, okay? Two different sprites right here. Here, I'm going to do here, and I'm going to do this. I'll uncomment those, and I'll make this a 3. So this tween is going to represent logo, which is going to represent Firefox. Okay, so Firefox is going to drop, and then the tween first is going to be L, which is Dart, and that's going to drop also. Okay, but it's going to drop a little bit slower. So let's see what this actually does. I didn't save it, I don't think. Okay, well, I didn't change them around, but so what one does, you have two different objects on the same screen itself, okay, the same stage, but you have two different sprites doing two different actions. So that's what we have to keep in mind if we want multiple things, which we almost certainly will in the future. We can have them do two separate things. This will twist, this will not, okay? Now we can go down a little bit further when talking about the tween. So tween is not just moving object across, but it can also be just moving an object right where it is. It could just pivot it, right? So we talked about the characteristics of where right here, where is that? Right up here, where is the pivot going to actually be for the sprite, the logo data, which is again for Firefox. When we go down here itself, we're going to have a tween rotation. So this is rotation. This is just the type tween variable rotation. Then I'm just going to say logo. Again, it's the Firefox logo right there. Logo dot, actually, I'm going to change it to Y so it's easier to see. Okay, so logo.mouseclick.listen, mouse event E, and what it's going to say is, this person put this inside of here. I'm going to comment it out real quickly, just for a second. And it's going to say rotation right here. Rotation equals stage.juggler.add tween, and it's going to have a different transition. Okay, so on mouse click, it's going to start activating this thing. Rotation equals stage.juggler, same thing as before, stage.juggler, dot add tween, logo, it's the same thing, 0.5, I could do the L, but let's do 0.5, and ease in, out, cubic, which is, and basically, we'll say rotation.animate.rotation by, so it's basically you're going to animate this thing, same thing here, and it's going to be a different type of animation to rotate it on its axis. And so let's save it and let's see what happens when I do it. Okay, I'm going to left click it and it spins. I'm going to left click it again and it's again and it keeps spinning, okay? Oh, okay. Actually, what happens if I click it multiple times at once, okay? So I'm getting it to spin a little bit in between. But what if I don't want that? I want it to do, when I click it, as many times as I click it, it'll only spin once, okay? Not like this. So this code was actually added in there for that purpose. Oops, hang on. So if we redo this itself, I could click on this, left click on this multiple times, and it'll only spin once at a time. So what happens here is that what they said is if rotation is not equal to null. So right now, I click on it, rotation equals null, right? So if it is not equal to null, it is equal to null, so it'll keep going. So then rotation equals all these things, and in the end, it'll say rotation.onComplete, anonymous function, rotation equals null. So while it's in the process of spinning right here, rotation does not equal null, right? While it's spinning, it does not equal null. So therefore, if you try clicking it multiple times, it will just return and nothing will actually happen. Okay, so what if we do something with this? I'm going to say 0.99. How is that going to affect it? So it slows it down. Again, I can click it multiple times. It's not going to do anything here. But I could also speed it up to make it spin much faster. You see that? It's almost instantaneous how it spins. And what if I put like a number 10 there or something like that? I guess not. I guess it has to be a 1. I guess the maximum is 1 maybe. Oh, it is spinning actually. I missed that. I'm going to try putting a 10 there again. Yeah, it is slowly spinning itself. All right, cool. So that is, what's this? Logo.mouse cursor equals mouse cursor dot pointer. Logo.mouse cursor. It's the pointer itself. I'm not exactly sure what that does. Let's comment it out and see what that actually does. Let's speed that up. That's a little obnoxious there. Unfortunately, half these things, I just have to experiment with it, play around with it, and see what it actually does. That actually missed my eye completely. So it spins. Logo.mouse. Honestly, I don't even know what that means. So the mouse cursor is the pointer. I'm not sure if you comment it out, if it's really doing anything. I don't know. I'll have to look that up in the future itself. But I'll leave it where it is right now. So in the future, that's all this for this particular application. In the future, I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this in the next video, but let's start going over some of these other things, and maybe we can like make a small video game or something like that. That would be kind of fun. But I'll go through some of these more details and some of more of these animations, and maybe get a little bit more complicated with the juggler method that we really didn't go through very much for right now. Okay, thank you.